How you doing? I'm Raphael Aaliyah.
And I'm John Jackson, and welcome to the Mancave.
Hi guys, so today we're going to continue with our NFL playoff picks, with our divisional picks. But first we have a couple of points to emphasize. We have in hockey, the Rangers and the Islanders play later on tonight in a big showcase of the Metropolitan Division. The Rangers right now lead by 2 points over the Islanders, who are right now in third place. That, though, is a very small story compared to what we have in the NFL. John, why don't you take that?
Yeah, NFL news came out that the Rams will now be moving to LA. That is, the St. Louis Rams will be moving back to Los Angeles to be the Los Angeles Rams.
Once again.
A lot of teams were looking to do this, the Chargers and Raiders being two of those teams. However, the St. Louis Rams were the team now that will be moving. But the Chargers, they do have a chance to join them, don't they?
They have a year to negotiate to join them in LA. If they cannot, then it will be open for the Oakland Raiders. That, though, is a very slim chance, as it's been expressed. But the Raiders still holding out hope for that. This is actually a really big move if you're a fan of the Rams, because they're bound to have still some fans in LA. Remember, they were once the LA Rams, so this could be a good move for them. But then they are also leaving behind a big sports city, which is St. Louis in Missouri. So they're gonna miss them over there.
Yeah, really, it's going to be tough for them. The St. Louis fans. The LA fans, especially those left over that are still Ram fans from LA, they'll be ecstatic.
Yeah,
to have the Rams come back.
Did you hear the mayor's comments on that? He was the St. Louis mayor's comment. The St. Louis mayor, however, was very, very anti-move. Obviously, yeah. It's going to take NFL football away from his city, and he expressed that very angrily, stating that they don't know what they're missing over here. You know, this is, they're missing this big fan base. St. Louis is a place where you want to be. But he has no say in this. They will be moving to LA, and that's a big story. We'll follow that. Now let's move on to our divisional playoff picks. Okay, so after the wild card round is over, we have John, Dimitri, and I at 3-1, and Ethan Illers at 2-2. Let's see if we could change that with these playoff picks. John, why don't you start us off with your pick for Kansas City at New England Patriots?
Now, I feel this is going to be one of the closest games. It's tough to choose between these teams. You have a very, very hot Kansas City team. They just keep winning. That's all they're doing right now. And you have a New England team that, although you could say is the better team over the course of the whole season, to end out the season, they ended out pretty weak, losing to the New York Jets and also losing to the Miami Dolphins. Tom Brady, he will be playing the game. He was shaken up in the last game against the Dolphins by Ndamukong Suh. However, he should be good to go. It's going to be a close, tough game, and I think most people would probably pick New England.
They are the favorites on the line.
Yeah, however, I will go with Kansas City. I think this is one of the best Kansas City teams I've seen in a long time.
I don't think that's arguable. They're definitely
one of the best. They're absolutely on fire. And Alex Smith hasn't been doing, terrific. He hasn't been great.
He's been winning football games.
In the last game against the Houston Texans, he had a touchdown, he had an interception. He had he had 100 yards, less than 200. He hasn't been great, but he knows how to win. This whole team knows how to win. And even after losing Jamal Charles, they're still winning. So I'm going to go with Kansas City.
And he's also going to be voicing for Dimitri Mikas. I'll be voicing for Ethan Illers.
Dimitri has the opposite opinion. He thinks New England.
Ethan also says New England. And I'm going to leave John alone. And I'm going to also go for New England. Not that I disagree with any of your points.
It's close.
They ended on completely opposite. New England ended losing again to the New York Jets and the Miami Dolphins. Kansas City ended with 10 straight wins. So that separates them right then and there. However, we have to remember that New England was without their receiving core. They were banged up. They were just not the same New England team that they were at the beginning of the season. I believe they're going to come out here in Foxborough. We've seen how home field advantage may not play much of a difference.
It probably will starting in the divisional
round. But it definitely will. The New England Patriots are going to come in there healthier, I'd venture to say, than the Kansas City Chiefs, who may play without Jeremy Maclin, and we know what a big player he's been in that Chiefs offense. They're going to come to Foxborough. They're going to lose to the New England Patriots. It might be a tight game, but New England's going to come up on top. Now we're going to move to Arizona. Green Bay Packers against the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I go with Arizona. I've been high on Arizona for a very long time. Over these past few years, when they finished 2013 10-6, they come the next year going into the playoffs, which was last year, as a very great, terrific team, but they're on their third string quarterback. Now they come this year with Carson Palmer.
MVP candidate,
better than ever, Carson Palmer. A great team, great defense. Arizona Cardinals easily could beat the Green Bay Packers. However, the Packers, as I said last week, we don't know what to expect from them. They're high, sometimes they're low. Sometimes they're the best team out there. Sometimes they're the worst team out there. Arizona is very, very consistent. They're good. And even if we get the good Green Bay Packers of last week, still think Arizona's going to take it. Dimitri also agrees with me. Arizona.
Oh, he's not going to take Green Bay for the
Not
second
Green
straight
Bay.
week.
No, Arizona's that good.
Ethan Illers is also going to say Arizona, and I'm going to call it a sweep for Arizona. Listen, understandably, Green Bay, up and down. If they hit an up, then they could put up a better fight. But let's be for real quick. Their offensive line is pitiful. The fact that they pulled it together for one game, they played well that game.
Yeah.
They're not a good offensive line. They may have played good, but they're not a good offensive line. And they're going to show it against this Arizona Cardinals defense. They're gonna have fun sacking Aaron Rodgers. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Because Arizona's going to see this Green Bay team. If Green Bay had not played to their potential, I think it would have been a closer game this week because I think Arizona might have lowered their guard. But seeing how well Green Bay could play is going to scare Bruce Arians, who I venture to say is the top head coach this season. I love Bruce Arians. He's a great head coach. He's going to look at this. He's going to say, you know what? Maybe we can expect a tougher Green Bay team coming out, and he's going to have his guys playing their hearts out. And they're going to advance to the conference round. Seattle now playing Carolina after that close game. They're playing the number 1 seed, which is the Carolina Panthers. John, what do you think?
I feel this is a hard one to pick. Seattle, like I say, I'm pretty big on momentum. Seattle had a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. However, the Panthers, 15-1. It's really hard to dispute that Seattle's going to beat Carolina. We looked last week. It's not like Seattle crushed the Vikings. I know it was cold. That was a reason why they played poor. But they put up 10 points. You're not going to put up 10 points and beat Carolina. I'm just going to leave it at that. Dimitri, however, believes Seattle will win.
And Ethan's going to agree with you. He's going to say that Carolina will win. And I am going to agree with Dimitri.
Okay.
And say that the Seattle Seahawks go in to Carolina and they take that game. Now, very hard to dispute, you said, with Carolina's record. I'm going to dispute it in saying that in a game that the Vikings had pure advantage, being the home team, being in the cold, they're more accustomed, you can't deny that, they're more accustomed to the cold. They've been able to play in the cold. They put up 3 field goals, not a touchdown. Seattle allowed 3 field goals, that's it. Offensively, of course, Seattle did not play well. It was sub-zero temperatures. That's not an excuse for how bad they played. But their defense is what gives me the confidence that they're going to go out there and they're going to beat the Panthers. Because I'd say that their defense is a class above the Panthers' defense. And Russell Wilson is going to be able to throw against a weaker Carolina secondary. It's the weak point of their team, which is a very strong team. But Seattle and Russell Wilson he's gonna be a new man. You know, if the temperatures rise above 0, he's going to be a different quarterback than we saw last week. Their defense is going to be the same. They're going to hold out Carolina, and it was honestly the toughest game for me to predict, but I say Seattle.
Okay. Next game, we have Pittsburgh at Denver. And I'll start that off with saying Denver is going to win. I think this is going to be the easiest game out of all 4 games this weekend. We have just a pitiful Pittsburgh team that barely beat the Bengals.
Barely made it to the playoffs.
Barely made it to the playoffs. And now we have them facing Peyton Manning and the Broncos. Most likely Peyton Manning will be starting. That's what they have said. Peyton Manning, although most people would say he chokes in the playoffs, he's won games in the playoffs. It's not like the Bengals who went 0-7 in their last 7 appearances.
That's a big point.
Peyton Manning does win. Not a lot. And this is his worst season. So yeah, it might not be an easy win if it was any other team, but this is Pittsburgh, who may not be playing most likely with Big Ben. They'll be playing with most likely Landry Jones, who is pitiful. He had 2 passes last week, if I'm not mistaken. One for around 10 yards, 11 yards, another for an interception. I mean, this is a guy, he was playing terrible during the regular season when he had to replace Ben Roethlisberger. Why do you possibly think he's going to play better in the playoffs against Peyton Manning at Denver? I don't think so. So I go easy Denver win. However, Dimitri will say Pittsburgh will win this game.
I really wish Dimitri was here. I want to hear what he thinks about it and why. Because neither Ethan nor myself see Pittsburgh winning. Dimitri will stand as the lone wolf in that category.
But if he's right, I'll be very impressed.
If he's right, he'll be very, very lucky. Because that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers have been. They were lucky to make it into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
They were lucky to win it last week.
Absolutely.
And if they win it this week in Denver, it'll have to be because of good luck. Because there's no way, team by team, that these 2 teams clash and Denver doesn't come out on top. They're the better team. They're the better team. You could say what you want about Peyton Manning. He's Peyton Manning. He's Peyton Manning. This Pittsburgh, they don't have a secondary. They don't have a secondary. Peyton Manning is a Hall of Fame quarterback going up against Pittsburgh's secondary. He's not going to let up. They're going to score points. They're going to put up big numbers against Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has shown that they can't answer back. They couldn't answer back last week with Ben Roethlisberger, and you're going to tell me that they're going to answer back this week with Landry Jones? No way. No way. Pittsburgh loses that. Easiest prediction that I had to make. If Denver loses that game, it's going to have to be like a playoff game as we saw last week, where many things have to go wrong for them to lose. So I say it's going to be Denver.
You got to remember too, this is the best defense that Peyton Manning's playing under in Denver.
It's a fantastic defense.
If he just has a mediocre game, I think he wins. He doesn't even have to have a good game, just mediocre.
And again, Pittsburgh's secondary.
Yeah,
you can't.
There's no competition that Denver's the better team overall. They have the better quarterback by far. It would be very interesting.
And remember,
Pittsburgh wins.
And remember, this is Dimitri standing for the lone wolf for the second time. He also did it for Green Bay, who he also didn't think had a chance in that game. So maybe he pulls it off. We'll see how that turns out. We'll be back next week with our conference round picks, so be sure to tune into that. Once again, I'm Raphael Aaliyah.
And I'm John Jackson, and this has been the Man Cave.